Hey everyone, Eric here from LaughFix. It's a beautiful Monday morning today, and I just want to be talking to you guys about a lot of questions that we get here. So we are obviously a repair computer shop, and we do lots of laptops, we do computers, we do MacBooks, and we do board level repairs on all those things. And we're also actually a data recovery center. We've been making lots of videos you've been seeing with like USBs, mechanical hard drives, SSDs. We do lots of great things with that as well. And a lot of questions we do get is about once we do a successful one, for data recovery, people are like, hey, what's the best way to prevent this in the future? Should I buy a certain brand? Should I do certain things? Or what's going on with it? So I do have an answer for you guys today, at least for what we like to tell people, for what we typically like to tell people anyway. So the main storage that we do obviously see, especially for data recovery, most data recovery centers are going to see, you're going to see this is a mechanical drive, and you'll see that obviously we get them a lot, and they're pretty much the most prone ones for failure, I guess, and for data recovery, because this also accounts for like external drives as well. You probably see them, a lot of people like to back up stuff on an external drive as well as like a 3.5-inch mechanical drive here. Now you can see these can last for a very, very, very long time, especially if you have a 3.5-inch drive. You just throw it in a desktop and you never touch it, and you just use it more for backup. If you use them more for like operating system and other uses like that, you'll see that there will be a lot of wear and tear actually on the drive itself, because it's accessing, it's using an operating system, it's accessing that all the time, and it's basically running nonstop 24/7. Now you could say, yeah, they can actually last a very long time and do very, very well. These are mainly made for pretty much storage devices, and they're much better for like long-term storages, or if you're just, if you're doing photo editing, or if you're doing video editing, or you just want to leave all your pictures there, and then you just want to back up to there instead of, and maybe have like an SSD as your main operating system, or if you still are using mechanical drive for your operating system, you can at least have like a separate one as a backup one, especially if you're using like an external drive. Now, speaking of external drives, those have a little bit more failures because why? They're external drives, they plug in via USB, but you're probably taking them around quite a bit. And when you take them around a bit, you're moving them around, there's a tendency for them to get actually damaged, especially physically damaged, and that can damage, you could maybe damage the head there, you could damage the platters, or if you have it backing up and then you're just like lifting it up and around, or you're taking it everywhere as it's backing up, or you have it plugged in all the time and you're moving a laptop, that can obviously create damage there as well. So for mechanical drives, we like to recommend them more just as like separate backups, just keep stuff backed up on there, probably not to be really using as an operating system. Now you're probably thinking, well, okay, well, if I'm not going to be doing that, then I should probably just get an SSD, right? And use the SSD for absolutely everything. Now this is actually a really great case. Actually, I have this SSD here. This is a smaller one. This is a 64 gigabyte. It's much older. You can tell even by just the graphic design. This is an ADATA, very, very old SSD. SSDs are great for running an operating system and having it for the main drive, because it's for very fast storage, very fast boot up times. That's something you always want to use for that. And regardless of which SSD you want to do, as long as it's nothing important, that you don't want anything to be super important, obviously, on a cheaper SSD, but it's mainly good to be using as an operating system. You've seen every laptop, every MacBook, phones have them. Everything is basically backed up on it, or everything is at least used as an SSD for a main drive there. Now, as using them for backup and storage, it really depends. You'll see that there are a lot of different options, and you're like, well, they have this, like Samsung has like a Pro series that's they consider professional series, and it's a NVMe drive. It's very fast transfer rates. It's supposed to be very good, right? And that's probably better than any mechanical drive, right? Well, yes and no. So for mechanical drives, they can last for a very long time. They can be a very short amount of time. You can say 5 months, 5 weeks, or like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, especially you see those older ones, IDE ones, sometimes we still get them in and people are still backing up their stuff to there via like an old machine or something. So for SSDs, it really depends. I would probably say I would lean more towards no. If you're going to be getting a cheaper SSD, try not to make backups and storage on here, because what the cheap SSDs have in here is they have a cheaper controller and a very, very cheap NAND. And once the NAND actually gets all written up, pretty much NANDs, I can make a whole video just mainly talking about SSDs and how they work, but a quick summary for it is once the NAND actually gets written to a certain amount of times, usually by terabytes, and that really varies by the size capacity too. then eventually it just will stop working. It'll completely die. You'll see intermittent connectivity issues. You'll see lots of things going on there. Or if you're trying to back up, it just won't. Or it'll blue screen. You get lots of things like that on there. Or the controller can fail because this needs a controller and to access the NAND. And there's a PCB board. There's lots of stuff going on in here. So if you're going to be using it as a backup, I would recommend getting at least the highest quality NAND and controller you could possibly get. Usually those Samsung Pro series are actually pretty good for that. But again, they still have the same thing. There's so many terabytes written on those things. They have a good warranty. Usually if you get ones that at least have a 5-year, that would at least be a good thing. If you're a big production company, you're writing if you're writing like thousands of gigabytes every day, then that's going to obviously be a problem long term. You're going to have big problems still, because eventually it's going to die. No matter which SSD you have, they all have the same, they're built around the same technology and they have the same thing. Doesn't matter if you get a better one or an older one. One would probably last you longer, but that's really about it. But I would never back up on a cheaper SSD or use that as your main storage device for that. Would never be a good thing, because they are meant to eventually go. They're meant more for like operating systems and just quick boots, or very light use cases, or for like servers are perfect for those things. But obviously for like obviously operating systems, but for actual storage, long-term storage, definitely don't do that. And external drives and USBs are kind of similar to that. I have one here. I don't know if I had the freaky one. Oh, I do have the freaky one here. So now if you're thinking, hey man, why don't I just use a USB for the storage? I definitely wouldn't recommend that at all for like a long-term permanent storage. USBs are great for transferring stuff to and from stuff really quickly. And that would be the main focus. I would want to go for something like a USB. I wouldn't make it as a main storage, because these are even more fragile than SSDs. They don't have as great of a controller as SSDs, and obviously the NAND isn't as good as the SSDs for most cases, obviously. And usually they're in the lower storage capacities. They're great for small files for just transfers really quick. I would just recommend them for that. And as obviously you can see, and we make a lot of videos on the channel about how they just get physically damaged. They're usually pretty straightforward for repairs on the physical damage part, but still it's kind of the same problem. You don't want to be really using those as well. Now, if you're talking about now, what about MacBooks? And we do have, there's this one model that does have a removable drive, and we have it here. And it's funny because this one's actually bad, but it's one of these. This is the only newest model, I would say, that has like removable storage, and that's a 1708. But this one does have a problem all the time, and we've seen it a lot. And the best thing you can really do is, well, it goes into the next topic, is probably for Macs especially. You can obviously do external backups, those things, but now we're talking about cloud storage. Usually having something backup all the time is a really good thing. iCloud does a fantastic job. There's like Dropbox. There's lots of other cloud storage things you can do. Now the problem is syncing connectivity. I mean, I can't really say they're bad or not bad. It really depends on your internet connection where you are. Most people are probably going to have pretty decent internet connection nowadays, because it's not horrible here, I guess you can really say, but you can always have syncing, desyncing issues. If you just worked on a project, I would probably make sure that you just manually back that up. That would probably be the best way to really go for them. Cloud storages, now you have download speeds, upload speeds, that can vary. Depends on what service you get, depends on what you pay for, but then it's a paid wall and it's in the cloud. And however you want to talk about the cloud, I'm not going into that. If you're comfortable with it, if you're not comfortable, there's lots of great reputable companies. And I'm not going to really say too much about that, but again, it's having access to your data immediately. That's probably the number one thing about cloud storage, right, is probably that. So I talked a lot about just different options for it. So I still haven't answered the question, right, is what's the best option? So as you can tell, nothing is, in data recovery, nothing is foolproof. The best thing you can possibly do, and to answer everyone's question, is just to make a double backup. I think that's the best way to do it, and that's what I tell absolutely everyone here, because storage devices aren't never guaranteed, and that's just the case throughout all of them, because they all have potential problems, especially if it's something that's very important to you. And I'm sure all the data, especially when we get all the data recoveries for here, every single piece of information is valuable, whether it can be documents, pictures, game backups, projects, you name it, Excel sheets, anything. If it's really important to you, you got to make a double backup of it, just period. For our videos, I do have, actually let me show you on our thing, because I actually have it here, and I have a great example of something. So as you can see here, I have this one, and we have a YouTube folder, right? And then we also have a YouTube backup. And I make this one only a backup for this one. So in case one of these fails, I at least have a backup, and all the hard work we've been putting in, you know, I want to make sure that's safe, and I wouldn't want to lose that just because of my one hard drive there. Obviously, you can say, hey, why don't you make another backup? Well, definitely is not a wrong thing whatsoever there. But just to show you guys. So that's the best thing we can do here. Even though you saw that was a bigger drive, that's an 8 terabyte drive that has multiple heads, multiple platters. Don't want to go into the mess about even trying to attempt to fix that thing or get data recovery from some of those type of drives, especially if they have that problem. That's why if we just have a double backup, it solves pretty much everything. And if you have that double backup fail, man, I don't know really what to say at the same time. Man, then try to make sure you have a triple backup. But the idea is if it's really important, really valuable to you, have multiple backups. That's really the best thing I can say. So hope you guys just kind of learned a little bit something today, especially from a repair shop and a data recovery center at the same time, because we see lots of people have lots of the same issues. And some people even say, man, I was just making a backup of it and then it went out, or I was just thinking about making a backup of it and now they went out. And, you know, we don't want to put people in that situation. We're always here to try to help people, especially get their data off. So you don't want to really be going into that, especially if you have projects, deadlines, you have lots of things. Just make sure you make an extra backup of it. It takes, it costs a little bit of money. The drives, hard drives are very, very cheap. You can get like a 1 terabyte external drive for like $50. They're pretty cheap. You can get one of those, or even just a USB just to temporarily put it on before you make a separate backup, or if you want to make a double backup, that's fine too. Hopefully you guys just learned something today. Just gave you some tips and advice for it, just a little brief summary. I'll probably make a future video about pretty much how to make actual backups and probably where to locate files, and maybe I'll make that really shortly, so definitely stay tuned for that. I'll show you guys Windows and Mac. I think that'll be a good way to do that, to show where the files are stored and where people typically are looking for in their data, or if they're not sure off the top of their head. There's a few things I'm going to actually tell you guys in those videos, so stay tuned for that, subscribe for that. You probably might want to see that just to make sure, like, oh, I didn't think about that, and that's located there on that drive or for that program. You know, it's those specific things. So hope you guys are watching. If you did, please like again. Please help us a lot. Subscribe for more stuff. Stay tuned for those things as well. And see you guys next video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.